I think going to church and doing some, Bible readings was great and beautiful, and I think a great foundation. But I don't feel that my walk really truly started until I had kids, until my kids starting, specifically my older two started growing up. So I would say, specifically Olivia, like she started we have like a little Jesus Bible, and she started reading it and realizing like, oh, I'm not reading my Bible as much as I need to be. Like she's in there reading hers and she's asking questions, and I don't know those questions. And yes, I read the Bible and I went to church, but I don't think I knew the true relationship with Jesus until I started diving in deeper to be able to share that with my kids.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Offstage Podcast. We are in season 2 called The Stories. And it's just been so awesome to hear the stories of some of the leadership and staff here at Refuge, and just to dig a little deeper and really learn who these people are. We see them a lot, but really, what is their story? And so today I am joined by Brianna Misitano, who is an amazing woman. She has 4 little ones. She is an inspiration to me. I look up to her. Super mom. I always call her super mom because that's just who she is. But Brianna, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your family.
So my name is Brianna Misitano. I have 4 kids, like Michaela said. I have a 7-year-old daughter, Olivia. Levi is 6, and then Evelyn's 2, and Nolan's 1. So I got 4 under 7, which is a lot in our house, but obviously we're very blessed. My husband, Dante, and I have been married for almost 10 years. And we moved to Stevens Point about 4 years ago. So I'm from Oregon. My husband and I met in Iowa when we went to university together, and for some reason felt really called to come out here. And so we've been here for 4 years, and it's been a huge blessing. And so we couldn't be more happy with being here.
Yeah, we're glad your family found your way here. I'm sure when you first heard Stevens Point, Wisconsin, where even is that?
I don't know. I don't know anybody. Again, Dante is from Illinois, so we kind of knew generally the area, but definitely not in Wisconsin. I only thought of cheese and peckers, which is true. Yeah. But it's been fun.
Awesome. So what do you do at Refuge?
I am the assistant director for Canaland. So originally, I've been there for about 4 years as well. Originally, I was the nursery teacher, and then just kind of kept on filling these callings to increase my role. So originally, I just was like the assistant teacher. Then I became the lead teacher. And then just when I wasn't sure where God's next step for me was, the assistant director position came open, and everyone just said, that's your job. That's what it's just made for you. So It's been a true blessing. I've really enjoyed working with Jen Kleiner and Pastor Deb a little closer too. And it's a position that I wouldn't give up for the world right now. It's really fun.
That's awesome. You do a great job.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, Canaland is our early learning center. We have ages 6 weeks all the way to school age. And so, it's a busy, it's always busy around here. Yeah. So, okay. The icebreaker, I always do an icebreaker. Got to keep people on their toes. Right. So what is your favorite day of the week and why?
Probably Monday, honestly, because even though Monday is, people are like, nope, I don't want to go back to work, or, it's just starting the week off. Our house is usually pretty crazy on the weekends. And so Monday is a sense of routine for me. It's getting back to kind of our day-to-day stuff. And so I really enjoy Mondays. They're usually hectic.
Yes.
But they're always usually good. So
awesome. Well, let's dive right into this. I'm excited to learn something about you. Yeah. Maybe I'll learn something new. So let's start out with the beginning. If you can maybe tell a little bit about your early years, your upbringing, family, and if there were any moments or any people in your life that kind of shaped who you are now.
Yeah. So again, I'm from Oregon. My parents were married and then had me, and I have one younger sibling, brother named Ben. And we kind of just grew up in the church. We always went to church. My family is faith-based. And so Jesus was kind of just always there. He was just kind of always in my life and in the background, and just something that I tried to, the best I could growing up, put him first. But I don't feel like that was not until recently that I really made that come true. I feel like I went through a lot of emotions when I was younger. And honestly, just as becoming a mother, it's really helped pull him out. Helped me have a greater kind of meaning to life. I felt like, growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to be. I didn't know if I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know if I wanted to, go do, I have a degree in marketing. Even that, it's fun and I love it, but I wasn't sure, what my calling was. And so I feel like being a mom has helped that, and then therefore it's led me closer to the Lord.
That's good. Yeah. I can definitely relate. I have 2 kids, and I feel like I don't put all my identity in my children because I am more than just a mom, but I do think that kids give you a new sense of purpose, and it makes you realize wow, this life is so much bigger than just me, and I get to pour into a family, and I just think it's opened my eyes in so many ways. And so I love that perspective. So then growing up in the church and maybe even finding your faith for yourself, what was a pivotal moment for you in your walk with God, and how did you come to know Jesus and know him for yourself?
Yeah. So, again, growing up, I think going to church and doing some, Bible readings was great and beautiful, and I think a great foundation. But I don't feel that my walk really truly started until I had kids, until my kids starting, specifically my older 2 started growing up. So I would say, specifically Olivia, she started we have a little Jesus Bible, and she started reading it and realizing oh, I'm not reading my Bible as much as I need to be. She's in there reading hers, and she's asking questions, and I don't know those questions. And yes, I read the Bible and I went to church, but I don't think I knew the true relationship with Jesus until I started diving in deeper to be able to share that with my kids. To be very honest, even as recently as just coming back from the mission trip in Africa, to have those 10 days to be fully engulfed in the presence of the Lord constantly, and having people surround you who are also so faith-based in the passion that they have over there, has really made me come back, and I started seeing things in a different light, just putting my God's perspective on everything. So one thing that really stood out to me, and I know it's just as recently as Africa, but Pastor Matt would talk about things through God's eyes on everything. There was this hill that we had to climb to do the canopy walk, and I'm not in the best of shape, and so it was a little bit challenging, but I wanted to do it. And he, kept on saying look, you have such strength through God, you can do this. And it just to see his mindset towards such a worldly thing of exhaustion, and to put it into a spiritual perspective, greatly impacted me. It was you can really put God's perspective on every single thing you do through your life, as simple as a hike in the mountains.
Yeah, that's good.
And so when I came back, the first couple of days back, I think I was a little overwhelmed because I had 4 kids who missed me. But, I just was really still in his presence. And even today, every single thing I do has God's mind, or God's in my mind. I'm doing it. So
I love that. Let's talk a little bit about your mission trip to Africa, because that was back in April. And I even know leading up to it, it was just so on your heart to go. And I think I've said it a lot of times, but even as a mom, for you to show your kids, like, this is what it looks like to love Jesus and to serve people. I just think that's so awesome. But maybe share a little bit leading up to the trip and how God put that on your heart and you just couldn't deny it.
Yeah. Really. So growing up when I went to college, I worked for a nonprofit organization or did internship through them, and they helped with like Samaritan's Purse, and so I would do some social media stuff for them. And so that's kind of where the peak of Africa first started, a peak of interest of Africa. And, I got really excited to go, but it just was never my season. Every single time it was either I was in school or we were getting married or have kids. And I said, one day I'll go. I don't know when that'll be, but I'll go. And it was the very, very first time that I think Pastor Matt even mentioned Africa in church. Just, I don't know, something inside of me was just like, oh, you need to go. And I'm like, Lord, I've got 4 kids and I work full time and Dante works full time, and I just don't know how we would make that work. And then Heidi Eitenbrook at the end of the service said, if you had something inside your soul kind of stir and you wanted to learn more about Africa, like Tuesday night is the meeting. And I happened to do prayer that night. And so it from the very beginning, from that very day, every single thing leading up to me leaving on that trip just fell into place. It was impeccable. I think I had many times where I just broke down because it was so easy. Yeah. And such a big trip, like that usually stresses people out, and it didn't stress. We had so many people support our family in financial ways, in spiritual ways, and just praying for us. People came and watched our kids or took our kids to their extracurriculars and gave us food. And it was incredible. And that whole service, that first service that I started talking about it, I couldn't get it out of my mind. And so leading up to it, it was just confirmation that it was time for me to go. And it was my time to go now. So.
Yeah. That's so cool. I know you've talked a little bit about some parts of the trip that really impacted you, but was there like maybe a story or like a specific moment of the trip that just really stood out to you?
Yes. There's multiple times. The biggest one, which I think I've shared a couple times, was, I think it was the Monday after, so it was our second Monday there. And a couple of us decided just to go out and explore, which I normally think you'd be scared just to go out and explore in Africa, but I just felt super at peace about it. I'm like, we're going to go, and everyone was game to go. And so there was a beautiful jungle behind the house we were staying at, and I wanted to go there. I've been staring at it all week. I wanted to go and explore it. The trees were so tall you had to bend your neck in half. And so after like half an hour of us exploring it, we were able to get in there by a very generous soul who came and found us and kind of said, hey, do you want to go? And we're like, yes. And his name was Ruben, and he was amazing. And Ruben showed us the way. And so we were in the jungle and going through. And, he has this machete and he's getting vines down. And I just kept on looking at the floor. I was really worried about tripping. I was really worried about squishing very large centipedes. I was worried about anything else that might be on the floor. There was only moments where there was nothing in our way that I would stop to look at the canopy above. And it was in those moments that I realized the true beauty of the jungle. Like when you're looking on the ground, it's full of dirt and, again, very large centipedes and scary things. And it wasn't until those things were gone that I was able to look up, and we just all would stop and we would all look up. And it wasn't like, hey, let's stop. We just would do it.
Wow.
And it was a very powerful couple moments. You could just feel us all like taking it in. Even Ruben himself would stop, and we would just kind of look around and listen. And that kind of just translated in my brain later when I was doing a devotional to my everyday life, with 4 kids, with working, with all of our extracurricular stuff. I don't get a lot of time to look up. I'm always looking down at the next moment. How am I going to get through tomorrow when we've got 3 things that overlap? How am I going to, when I know that I want to do devotionals in the morning, but I'm so tired because of the 3 extracurricular things we had in the evening. How am I going to get through that? And the Lord's strength has really been able to allow me to do that and to get through those really tough times and to look up into and to admire him and thank him for everything.
That's so good. I love that analogy.
Thanks.
That's awesome. So, when it comes to your relationship with God, how do you see yourself now as opposed to life before Jesus? And what difference has following Jesus made in your life?
Before, Jesus has kind of always been there. I do remember the very distinct time when I accepted him, and that was with my grandfather and in my house. And he, we just kind of did the prayer, and I was probably 10 or 11. And then I was baptized around that shortly after that time. I feel like I was doing a lot of the walking and not a lot of the talking. I would go to church. I would try and read my Bible and do prayers and do the basics. But I feel like since we moved out here, to be very real, is radically changed. And it's more like not just going through the motions, it's living it, which I think is a huge, huge difference between, kind of adolescence and growing up in the church versus actually like being in the church and having a church family, which I also think has played a huge part in it. We moved around a lot as a kid. I especially like preteenish, we'd probably move every year or 2. And so it was really hard to get connected into a church family and to have lifelong friends. And so to be in a place where I know we won't move, I know we'll be here for as long as the Lord has willing, we love it here. And I think that has helped kind of foster the ability to be able to live in him and not just, go through the motions.
Yeah, that's good. When you were talking, I was taken back. I don't know why this randomly popped into my head, but I remember the first time I ever talked to you guys, and I think we were actually in this room, and I think it was during Refuge Life, which probably. Refuge Life is like our next steps to learn more about the church. And I remember talking to you guys and you were like, yeah, we actually weren't going to come today because I don't know, there was just kids and all of that stuff. And I just remember you saying I'm so glad we came today and got to get connected and got plugged in. But I don't know why that popped into my head. Just the first time talking to you guys and, even seeing your family has grown, even seeing your husband get baptized a couple weeks ago. It's just awesome to see what God is doing in your lives. And you're such a big part of what goes on here, even in the day-to-day stuff. And so as we move on with things, have you had any scriptures that have kind of been a theme that you've stood on throughout the years?
Yeah, so it's one a lot of people know, but Jeremiah 29:11, that's the one that I claimed as my life verse when I got baptized when I was 12. And that has been such a big piece because like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was older. I didn't know. Everyone's like, oh, you got to find out what you want to be when you grow up. And to not know is scary sometimes. And I think that's one that I constantly reminded myself, okay, Jesus has my back. He knows where he's going, where I'm going, where he's taking me. He has plans for me. I just have to live in him, and eventually he'll make them known and put me in the right places to unfold those.
That's good. I love that verse.
Right. It's your favorite.
So kind of along the same lines of that question, do you have a theme, word, or phrase that kind of describes your life, your journey?
Yeah. obedience. Just being abundantly obedient. Even just from when you were saying that Refuge Life, like we didn't know if we should go because it was it's lunchtime. We have,
nap
young
time.
Kids, nap time. It's go time.
Yeah.
And we both, Dante and I, felt a calling to go. And since the calling to move out here to Wisconsin, like we again didn't have any family, we didn't know anybody at the time, but we just felt like this is where we needed to be, and to just keep on following those callings. I feel like that's how it's been every single time something is presented to us. Like we listen and we take the calling. And so obedience, just radical obedience has been, and the Lord has shown me, like, you'll be obedient and I'll keep on, giving you more and more in the realms of challenging me to extend that obedience to greater things. Who I did not know 4 years ago that I would be going on mission, missions to Africa, especially again with the amount of children that we have. So, his blessings have shown through that obedience.
Yeah.
So in Africa, I was to give a message to some of the children there. And when Pastor Matt first asked this of me, I was a little nervous because I don't, I don't speak a lot in front of people. I'm not a preacher. I'm just a mom. And, but I listened, and got it all ready. But I felt afterwards a little attacked spiritually the next day. I was really down on myself. I don't feel like it went as well as I had hoped it would. I think I had all this stuff in my brain of how it was going to go. But I was struggling. Like, why did the Lord ask me to do this when, it's not really my thing. But I was reading a book, and in the book, the quote says, "Saying yes to God isn't about perfect performance, but rather perfect surrender to the Lord day by day." And after I read that, it was like, it didn't have to be perfect. It just matters that I listened and I took a calling and I just did, what the Lord has for me. It's not always going to turn out the way you expect it to, but you did it. So,
and God honors obedience. And so when we take a step out of our comfort zone, but we are obedient, there's grace for that. And so I think even, with your whole trip to Africa, that it was taking those steps, one step after another. And it was probably out of your comfort zone, I'm sure, yes. But you were obedient. And so I love that that's a theme of your life, because it is very evident. So as we wrap things up, are there any closing thoughts that you wanted to share, or any words of advice, anything to just wrap it up?
Just want to say that I'm grateful, for Refuge, and in general, I think, it's really created such a great environment for my family and I. We've really, to become an extended family, to say that we have a church family is an understatement. It's almost like we have real family, extended family that, we can just relish in and be grateful for. Our family has their relationship with Jesus, my kids and my husband, has all grown because of the people here, and Pastor Matt and Pastor Deb and you and everybody else. And so we're just incredibly grateful for the opportunity to be here and to be a part of this ministry.
We love you guys. You're part of the family, whether you like it or not. We're here. Well, that is all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I hope you guys were blessed. I know I was. And if you were blessed, feel free to like this post or share this with somebody that you think might need a little encouragement. And then also subscribe so that you can stay up to date with everything going on, and so that you can tune into next week's episode as well. So thank you, Brianna, for being here, and we'll see you guys next week.